Assata means she who struggles. Olugbala means for the people, and Shakur means the thankful. It is a name that I took to carry on the name of Zaid Malik Shakur in honor of his family and in honor of the forces of beauty and good on this earth, which I'm very grateful for. In 1977, I was convicted in a trial that can only be described as a legal lynching. In 1979, I was able to escape with the aid of some of my fellow comrades. I saw this as a necessary step, not only because I was innocent of the charges against me, but because I knew that the racist legal system in the United States, I would receive no justice. I was also afraid that I would be murdered in prison. I later arrived in Cuba, where I am currently living in exile as a political refugee.
Hey, I'm Queen. Welcome to Mix Vixen. If you are new here, hey boo. And if you are not new here, thanks for coming through again. I really appreciate you. I wrote this the day that I learned that Assata Shakur passed because I wanted to document who she was to me and who she meant to me. And then I decided, why not make this a video? So here we are. Assata Shakur passed away on September 25th, 2025 at the age of 78 in Havana, Cuba. And the first thing I want to note is Assata Shakur died free. That matters because for decades, the United States government tried to lock her away, silence her, erase her. They called her a terrorist. They put her on the FBI's most wanted list. They made her into a symbol of fear. But through it all, she built a life in Cuba outside of their reach. She transitioned on her own terms, surrounded by community and culture, not behind bars. And to me, that is the ultimate victory. It wasn't until I picked up her autobiography, Assata, in high school that I finally encountered her story. And honestly, I was upset. Upset that it took me so long to even hear her name. Upset that a woman who played such a major role in liberation movements had been left out of the history I was being taught. Reading her book cracked me open. Here was a black woman telling her own story, her childhood, her activism, her pain, her joy, her survival. She wasn't just someone's girlfriend or background character. She was a leader, a strategist, a fighter. She showed me that black women weren't just a part of the struggle. We are the struggle. We are central to the struggle. That realization has never left me. Assata was born Joanne Deborah Byron in Queens in 1947. She grew up moving between New York and North Carolina, where she saw segregation up close. Her upbringing, like where she's from, I've connected a lot to it because I am from New York and my family migrated to Harlem from North Carolina in the 1920s. So I don't know, something that's just always a connection that I've had with her. Those experiences shaped her political consciousness. As a young woman, she got involved in student organizing, protests against racism, and the Vietnam War. She eventually joined the Black Panther Party and later the Black Liberation Army, dedicating her life to fighting police brutality, racial capitalism, and privilegism.
The whole liberation of oppressed people in the United States had to do not with climbing up some ladder to success, not for asking to be just like Rockefeller or just like DuPont or just like Ford, because that would only continue the oppression and exploitation of oppressed people in the United States, and specifically African people born and raised in the United States. Socialism is an integral part of building social justice on this planet. The condition of my people, my history, was very much connected with other oppressed people, and I began to see that the same foot that was on the necks of the Vietnamese people, that was on the necks of all oppressed people on the planet, was the same foot that was on my neck. And so I began to understand that imperialism has to go. It is a poison that is killing people all over this world.
All of that sounds familiar, right? She took the name Assata Olugbala Shakur. which means she who struggles, the thankful one who brings salvation. Her name itself reflected her purpose, but with that purpose came state repression. The FBI's COINTELPRO program targeted black radicals with surveillance, infiltration, arrest, and assassination. Assata became a target. In 1973, she was shot and arrested during a confrontation on the New Jersey Turnpike, in which a state trooper was killed. Despite being badly wounded, she was convicted of murder and sentenced to life in prison. Many call her trial unjust and a clear example of political persecution, but in 1979, with the help of comrades, she escaped. By 1984, she had made her way to Cuba, where she was granted asylum, and that's where she lived for the rest of her life. In Cuba, Assata wasn't hiding. She was living. She raised her daughter, built a community, and continued teaching and writing in Cuba. In 1988, she released her autobiography, Assata, which remains one of the most important texts on liberation, survival, and the role of black women in revolution. It's also on the banned books list. That book really changed my life. It gave me language for my rage, my hope, and my vision of freedom, and a story where I see a revolutionary defeat the system that desperately wanted to destroy her. It showed me that survival itself is revolutionary, that joy and care and community are just as important as resistance. And even though she was not in the United States, her presence was everywhere. You can hear her influence in the chants that protest today. You can feel her in every movement that centers care, love, and solidarity alongside resistance. Even decades into her exile, the United States government never let go of its pursuit. In 2013, under President Barack Obama's administration, the FBI officially added Assata Shakur to its most wanted terrorist list, making her the first woman ever placed there. With that designation, her bounty was doubled from $1 million to $2 million. Think about that. Decades after her escape, Assata was still such a threat to the United States that they raised the price on her head like she was some kind of trophy. That moment makes it clear the state would never forgive her for refusing to bow down to them. They wanted her as a cautionary tale, proof of what happens if you dare to fight back. But Assata flipped the script. She lived. She thrived. She died on her own terms.
I come from a tradition of women, maroons, cimarrons, who didn't just try to escape from oppression, but were totally mind, body, spirit committed to resisting and committed to winning, whether was Nanny in Jamaica, who fought against the enslavers, whether it was Harriet Tubman, who helped to free more than 700 slaves. I think I come from a very strong history, and I simply want to live on this planet and to continue that tradition and to try in my little way to make my ancestors proud.
This is why I feel the need to document who she was and is in the liberation movement, because I know what happens when our heroes pass away. The mainstream starts rewriting. They sand down the edges, strip away the radical politics, and turn revolutionaries into harmless sound bites. They'll either paint Assata only as a fugitive, only as a criminal, or they'll try to sanitize her into some vague activist without acknowledging that she was, is, or will always be a revolutionary, a mother, a thinker, a comrade, a black woman who gave everything to the struggle. And if we don't tell the truth, their narrative will win, and Assata Shakur deserves better than that. For me personally, Assata represents possibility. She represents the fact that even when the state comes for you, even when an empire puts all its weight against you, you can still find ways to live, to thrive, to leave behind a legacy that inspires generations. She also represents something more personal, a reminder that Black women are not afterthoughts in history. We are the architects of liberation. We have always been here and will always be here, whether they write us into the textbooks or not. And when I think of Assata, I think of the teenage me reading her words for the first time and finally seeing a woman reflected in the story of liberation in the way that just felt so close to me. I think about how angry I was that I hadn't heard her name sooner and how grateful I am that I eventually did. Assata Shakur's life was complex. Revolutionary lives always are. But what is undeniable is her impact. She lived long enough to see her words carried into the streets by new generations. She lived long enough to see her name become a symbol of resilience and freedom. And most importantly, she died liberated, not in a cell, not under the control of the state, but in Havana, Cuba. She carved out a full life of her own. Rest in power, Assata Shakur, and thank you for showing me and all of us that freedom is not something we wait for. It is something we live, something we seize, something we protect with everything we got. So yeah, that's the end of my thank you letter to Assata Shakur. Thanks for watching. I guess this is where I plug my Patreon. I have been on Patreon a lot. If you haven't followed me on YouTube, I'm not here as often as I am trying to be. I keep coming back and saying I'm back and then I'm gone for months. But most of my things are on Patreon. I also have free things going on there. All of my essays are there. The written version of this essay is on Patreon and that is free for everyone to access. So become a member. I have a Patreon exclusive podcast called Community Convos with Queen. And that is kind of where I just do all of my pop culture takes. So follow my Patreon. I would appreciate that if you do. Thanks for everyone who is a patron so far. And yeah, I'm going to go now. Remember, you are a bad bitch. You are enough. And I'll see you in the next video.